Now, General Flynn, as you recall, was the national security advisor for President Trump, who was railroaded into a plea agreement where he pled guilty to lying when in fact he didn't lie. It's pretty clear. It was the beginning of the Trump administration, and James Comey, as he's admitted on tape doing, knowingly bypassed the rules and the processes to send FBI agents to interview General Flynn. And we since have found out that the FBI agents who interviewed him found him to be truthful. They did not believe he was lying. They were asking him about conversations he had with the Russian ambassador while he was still outside the government, but working for the president-elect of the United States. He was the incoming national security advisor. And the pretext for going into the interview was that they were concerned about his violations of the Logan Act, which was just completely bunk. I mean, the idea that you would target the staff of an incoming president in communication with foreign leaders and representatives under the Logan Act, which prohibits private actors from conducting their own foreign policy, is absolutely ludicrous. And the fact that they used it should tell you that there was a corrupt motive for the investigation. And of course, the investigation of General Flynn had begun in at least in 2016, maybe earlier, because it was all part of this fraudulent crossfire hurricane operation that allegedly began in the summer of 2016, but the targets they quickly focused in on were George Papadopoulos, Carter Page, and General Flynn. So the spy operation began almost immediately upon President Trump gaining the Republican nomination. And if you think that's a coincidence, then I've got a bridge in Brooklyn I can sell you. Now, they continued to spy on Flynn. They were sending FBI agents to spy on Flynn. And who knows what else. We asked for whether there were any FISA warrants targeting Flynn, and we got a response from the government that said they can't confirm or deny there was a FISA warrant targeting Flynn. So, long story short, and it is a long story, the Muller operation came in, took the conclusion that the FBI had made that he didn't lie, and turned it into, well, he did lie. And they forced him into a plea agreement. And he finally got himself new counsel, Sidney Powell, who's been an excellent lawyer. And Sidney is excellent, not because, I mean, she obviously has the legal acumen, but because she understands the depravity and the depths of the corruption at the senior levels of the Justice Department and the FBI. And so she went to town. And General Flynn withdrew his plea, or seeking court approval to withdraw his plea. And Sidney just pushed for a full disclosure of the documents required under law that the government's supposed to make to someone like General Flynn, a defendant in a criminal case. And finally, Attorney General Barr, sensing presumably something was off, had a third party look at these documents to see if they had turned over everything they were supposed to turn over. And the third party was a U.S. attorney. I think he's in Kentucky. And so the U.S. attorney, so they've disclosed new documents that they should have turned over to General Flynn's legal team. And the documents are blockbuster. They're blockbuster. And they include emails between Carter Page and, Lisa Page and Peter Strzok and other FBI officials about whether to give Mr. General Flynn his warning that, the sort of constitutional warning you get, the legal warning you get that you can't lie to an FBI agent. Of course, they're required to do that. It's called the 1001 warning. And the language in the emails is, oh, well, maybe you can just slip it in. In fact, they never did give him the warning, which is another violation of the rules in the law. And the other documents are handwritten notes. It's been reported that they're by Bill Priestep, who is Strzok's immediate supervisor. And he's essentially writing, what is it we want to do here? Do we want him to admit to doing something wrong? Because he allegedly lied about what he talked to the Russians about, as opposed to misremembering or not recalling exactly what he talked to the Russians about. So do we want, so the notes read, do we want him to admit to wrongdoing? Do we show him the evidence we have, which is what we normally do? Or do we want to get him fired and prosecuted? Well, we know the path they took to get him fired and prosecuted. And the fact that they had that word, do we want to get him fired, shows you there was no legitimate basis to question him. It was a political basis. It was a policy basis to question him. The case should be thrown out. They had no legitimate basis to go over there and secretly, skullduggerously try to entrap General Flynn, which is what in fact they did.
Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel to catch all the latest news from Judicial Watch.